Told you. Today we're stepping into hi-fi already because we're gonna check a product from the main player, pun totally intended, in terms of portable audio. This is the review of $1,400 flagship digital audio player called Fiio M15. Roll the intro! So this is actually the old intro of mine. It was on my Polish channel that was previously called Bitwolf, and since this channel right now is called Bitwolf, then the previous channel is called by my full name. So I was like, probably we have to also transfer intro as well. Do you like it? You probably don't, but I don't care because we're gonna stick with it and I'm not going to change it anytime soon. So let's talk about Fiio M15, and I guess we're gonna start with the box, obviously. And I have to say this is one of the nicest unboxing experiences I've ever had in my life, because the first box, there are plenty of boxes, TLDR, that's a spoiler. The first box, it has like some kind of a holographic rainbow effect that looks really nice. When we're gonna take it out, we're gonna see like a typical standard elegant box that you can see plenty of Chinese audio gear. When we're gonna open this box, we're gonna get, guess what? A wooden box, which is actually a real wood and it's really nice to touch. When we're gonna open this wooden box, we're gonna get another box, but to open it you actually have to take off your Fiio M15, so we're gonna have to pop out the Fiio M15, and then we're getting typical standard cardboard black box that actually carries all the accessories. And if we're talking about accessories, well, this thing costs $1,400, and I'm gonna mention that price many times today, so be prepared for that. So in terms of accessories, I think there are some lacking, because you're getting Type-C cable, you're getting papers, optical adapter, and obviously the pin opener, which I'm gonna mention later why I truly hate it, and that's pretty much it. We're not even getting any sort of silicon case that will protect our really expensive DAP, and I would like to protect the really expensive DAP that is in mine, and I have to retrieve it after some testing. So if we're talking about physical experience with Fiio M15, the first two things that will come up in your mind when you have it in your hand for the first time is this thing is pretty large and this thing is pretty hefty. Like, we're talking 310 grams of weight, and also it's pretty thick boy. Like, we're talking 18mm of thickness, and there's a good reason for that, but I'm gonna explain that obviously later. If we're talking about overall shape, we have pretty much rectangular shape with some concave design that I have really huge problem with, but I'm also gonna mention why in a second. So let's describe what we have on sides, on the front, on the back, and all that stuff. So on the front we have 5.15 inch 720p, probably IPS, I don't remember, Gorilla Glass covered touchscreen that is actually pretty much on the entire front. It only has like a small chin, so it looks pretty nice. It looks elegant, and you can literally mistake it with some kind of a smartphone if you won't see how thick that boy is. At the top of the unit we have our outputs. So we have 2.5mm balanced, 3.5mm single-ended, and 4.4mm balanced, and also analog knob. This knob does not have any sort of click to it. It's actually buttery smooth and really easy to turn, which actually can introduce some issues. So for example, I was constantly bumping it in my pocket, which resulted in decreasing or increasing volume, and with headphones like M1060 or with Kinera Nana IEMs, it didn't have much of an issue with that because they are not really sensitive at all. But for example, if you're Campfire Andromeda user or something, that can actually expose some huge danger for your hearing. So be aware of that, or just simply block the volume if you're using such IEMs. At the bottom we have USB Type-C, which also introduced some issue for me, because I don't like when you have Type-C at the opposite side of your outputs, because for example, if you would like to use M15, charge it and use your headphones at the same time, the only thing to pocket it is basically some kind of a hoodie with that pocket that actually you can access from both sides, and that's really inconvenient, I would say. But also I would not recommend doing such thing, because this thing can get pretty damn warm if you'll do that. Next to Type-C, we have this stupid SD card tray that is only accessible by this pin we know from smartphones. And why are we doing this? Like, can we just have some rubber doors that actually we can open with our fingernails? Like, there's even one more problem. I was actually trying to open this SD card tray with a pin that came with my phone, which is actually OnePlus. I was also trying it with a pin that came with LG, with Huawei, and it turns out they're all incompatible with M15 SD card tray, because that tray actually requires even thinner pin. So if you're buying this thing, keep in mind that you cannot lose this pin or you're gonna have really bad time. Just saying. And now we're getting to the sides. On the right side we have pretty much nothing except that concave design I was talking about, and on the left side we have our buttons. So there are plenty of buttons there. We have a lock touchscreen switch, we have power, media control, and also a special customizable button that can actually act as plenty of things in your DApp. And this is the side I have the most issue with, because physical buttons is like the most crucial thing why I'm buying and using a DApp in the first place, because mostly I'm using my DApps in my pocket, so I have to know where specific buttons are if I would like to play pause, if I would like to skip the track, etc, etc. And with this design that Fiio M15 has, it's just impossible. These buttons are too close to each other. Some of them are apparently a little larger, like we're talking about power, about pause. The only way to navigate them is actually to like locate with your finger the lock switch and then count the buttons, so you can actually know if you're clicking power, if you're clicking play pause, which is really annoying. Like, you have so much space on that side. Why won't you make more distance between them? Why won't you make larger buttons larger? Like, you could make plenty of things to make it work, and you actually didn't. They're too close to each other and you can't literally tell which button is which unless you're gonna click it, which is damn annoying. Even worse, because of that concave design, if you want to put M15 in your pocket without actually touching your screen, then you have to hold it by these buttons. So you pretty much always accidentally click them. Like, for example, you're putting your M15 in the pocket, you accidentally press power, which gonna unlock your screen. You're gonna accidentally play pause your song in a pocket, and then you'll try to navigate with your fingers in your pocket where that play pause is, and accidentally you're gonna skip track or click your specialized button to add it to favorites. Like, this is stupid. Please fix this in revision 2 or pro version or something. Like, this has to be fixed because this is garbage. The semi solution for this is actually that lock switch, because with that lock switch it actually allows you to turn off some of the buttons while that lock switch is on. So for example, my setup was to take the lock switch, have play pause, have next track, and also the specialized button, which I actually mapped for random button, because another fact about me, I don't really like playlists. I'm basically a random boy. So I have 5,500 tracks on my DApp and I would like to listen to them in one single random playlist. That's literally how I'm listening to music. Hi! As stated before, we spoke something about exterior, now let's talk about interior, and I actually need to open specs of this thing on my phone because there's a plenty of it. So obviously Fiio M15 is a Android based DApp, so we also have a proper CPU for that, which is Samsung Exynos 7872. It also has 3 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of internal storage. In terms of audio though, we have dual DAC, AK4499, DSD512 supported natively, and also we have MQA decoding X8. If we're talking about power? Well, single-ended, non-balanced, we can go up to 490 milliwatts in something called big driver mode. I think they're actually describing something that is called over-ear mode in Fiio M15, which basically can be described like the turbo gain, like you can get the most power out of it. But if we're gonna step to balanced, we actually can get up to 800 milliwatts at 32 ohms of power. With such figures, you're probably thinking, this thing cannot have a good battery life, right? Right? Well, it's a thick boy for a reason. We have inside 7,490 million powers of battery, which actually introduces 15 hours of battery life. How cool is that? This is actually pretty cool. Like, mostly dApps I'm testing have like 10, 11 hours of battery life, and this is like okay-ish. So yeah, if we're talking about power, it's good. If we're talking about battery life, it's amazing for what it actually can do. And if we're talking about signal to noise ratio, well, it's non-existent. Like, I couldn't hear noise at all, don't get me wrong. Like, this thing is so quiet. I've tested it with so many IEMs and couldn't even hear a feint of noise, which is pretty damn nice. Now let's talk about user interface. It's Android, as stated before. So we don't have official Google Play Store. We can only use third-party stores, and you can only download apps from there. But if you won't find your app, then you simply have to go to the internet and download the APK file onto M15, which is kind of annoying, but not really an issue. If we're talking about music app, we're talking about Fiio Music app. So this thing, you can actually download it on your phone. You can actually find it on M11, M11 Pro. It's really good app. I've never had any issues with it. It actually reads out all of my lyrics, my tags, my albums, my covers that I'm manually putting by myself perfectly fine, so I don't have issues there. Maybe I just have one small issue, and it's about the random algorithm. So you have like 5,500 tracks. You played like song A, you're hitting random button, and suddenly you're getting a song A on repeat. Like, what's the chance of it? Like, you have 5,500 tracks. So yes, there is something called random algorithm, and I know that because once I saw a changelog of one dApp, and they actually stated they optimized random algorithm. So yeah, that is the thing, I'm not lying. So we have to mention wireless connectivity as well. We have Bluetooth 5.0 and also Wi-Fi. I don't really test Wi-Fi, to be honest. Pretty much if Wi-Fi works, then it's getting 10 out of 10 rating for me, and it doesn't work, then it's getting 0 out of 10. That's pretty much all of my Wi-Fi testing. I was downloading some files on the actual M15, and the transfer speed was pretty okay for Wi-Fi. Pretty much same story with Bluetooth. I paired it with numerous true wireless Bluetooth speakers, car systems. It works pretty much flawless without any issue. Never had any sort of dropping connection or problems with pairing with any of these things. So yeah, also 10 out of 10 for me. From additional features, obviously we have digital filters, but to be honest, I can't really hear digital filters. Like, I cannot distinguish any of them, so I'm not gonna really talk about them. And also we have 4 modes that actually can change the way how M15 works. So for example, we have full Android, which is like a standard one. We have something called pure music, which literally only features Fiio Music amp, and that's pretty much it, which is pretty nice. We also have obviously DAC amp USB mode, and I was using M15 with my laptop, and it's pretty flawless if we're talking about drivers, and obviously it was like a huge difference in terms of sound quality. Like, we're talking about laptop versus $1,400 dApp. Like, there's no competition, obviously. And fourth one is Bluetooth mode. Okay, we can finally get to sound. How M15 does sound. It has to be amazing, right? It's like $1,400 dApp, and it's a flagship from a Fiio, right? Well, you're totally correct. Like, boy, obviously it has to sound amazing. It's $1,400 and comes from a manufacturer that does not make DAPs for like 2 or 3 years. They make them for more than 10 years. I think, I don't really remember when the Fiio X1 came in. Doesn't matter. So most of my experience is with low range and mid-range DAPs. So if I'm experiencing something like Astel Kern CanCube, SP1000M or Fiio M15, it's sometimes just too high of a tier for me to properly describe what I feel about them. Okay, so maybe start with this. Fiio M15 is a really detailed DAP. If you have tracks that have really bad sound quality, they are recorded badly, they are mastered badly, they have some processing errors, you're gonna hear that. You need good tracks for this DAP. If you'll ever think about putting a bad track on this thing, then simply your hearing and also your soul gonna be corrupted. Like, this thing is so detailed, and that's why this thing is so brutal. I'm not even joking. But if you'll find a good quality track, then that's probably gonna be the greatest listening experience you've ever had from any digital player in your life. If we're talking about bass, the bass goes so low, yet it's so fast. It does not get muddy at all in any sort of track. If we're talking about mids and vocals especially, they're so well made, they're so well designed, because they can pair with pretty much every instrument, and you still can focus on a vocal and on an instrument at the same time, which is pretty nice. If we're talking about treble, well, it's pretty much on the high side. No pun intended, to be honest. That was actually not intended. It can get pretty high for some people, but it actually does not hurt at all. It mostly just exposes more detail to your tracks, and detail is literally the key here, because we have beautiful separation. We can literally focus on every single instrument we have in our orchestral pieces. We can simply focus on vocals. In some instrumental tracks, it's just an end game for me. This thing is so good that I could actually use it till the day I die. Will I buy it though? Well, obviously not. I can't even afford a film monitor to check if I'm in focus or actually in frame of this video, but I digress. Anyway, I don't have $1,400 to spend on a DAP, so obviously I would not buy it. And plus, the other thing, the ergonomic problems of mine, I would like to spend $1,400 on something that I would not have any problems with, especially on ergonomic side. But if all you desire is slick design, sound quality, power, and especially you're thinking about M15 as your endgame DAP, then I guess you found it, because this thing is amazing. And you know what that means? It's the end of the video. I hope you like it! Finally! It took me like 1.5 hours to record this thing today, and about 2 hours to record this yesterday, because my framing was so out of bounds. Like, literally my frame was ending somewhere here, which obviously looks terrible, so I had to record that again. Nonetheless, if you like that video, then hit the like, get subscribed if you haven't done that yet, and hit the bell to get some notifications. Also, remember about my Instagram, bitwolf.film, where you can find my beautiful photos, because mostly I'm a photographer, and you can also message me on direct message if you would like to do that. Next up, obviously we're gonna do some review. Will it be an audio review though? Maybe. Not. Stay safe, keep it tight, and see you next time. Bye!